Who do you say that I am? This is the central question of the gospel and serves as the pivot point in this gospel account of Jesus's life. The moment in which finally, after seeing Jesus's teachings and healings and exorcisms, the disciples are asked, who do you say that I am? And Peter, guided by the Spirit, answers correctly, you are the Messiah. But this question, who do you say that I am, is not only the pivot point of the gospel, it is the central question of the life of faith. It is the question we are all asked as those who are seeking or who are engaging or asking about Jesus, or those who have been following Jesus for many years are asked to engage, asked to answer, who do you say that I am? And we are not given a preset answer, nor is the answer static across the ages. This is a question in which each Christian community must engage in each time and place, must find their own language for, must find a way to express the fullness of their experience of Jesus, the fullness of their engagement with the scriptures, the fullness of their culture and time, its hopes and its needs, and find a way to answer that question in their own heart, in their own way, for themselves and for the community to which they are sent. Who is Jesus Christ? Who do you say that I am? There is room within the breadth and depth of the Christian tradition to answer this in any number of ways. And how we do so should resemble and reflect the who we are, the personal relationship with Christ we have, the culture into which we are born. It will sound and should be articulated differently here on the northern beaches of Sydney in 2021 as it would be in this same year in South Korea or in Tonga or in Chile. It would sound different if it was expressed 200 years ago or 50 years ago. In different times, in different communities, in different places, we answer this differently because Jesus is not dead and buried back in Galilee in the first century, but present and active and meeting us again as Jesus met his first disciples, calling us as he called his first disciples, and inviting us into an ongoing, unfolding, ever deepening relationship. Answering this question is not about learning by rote, but it is about wading deeper and deeper into the ocean of Christ, into the ocean of Jesus of Nazareth. For that reason, we, yes, draw upon the scriptures. Yes, we are guided by scripture and by tradition and by creed, but we formulate and find our own way to answer this question, one which reflects the encounter we have had with Jesus, one which reflects the hope in which we find in Jesus, one which reflects the existential crises, the worries and fears and needs and yearning of our lives and our times, and how we believe Jesus meets that too, finds us in that depth and walks with us through our lives. Who do you say that I am is a question we are asked every day. And how we answer it will change as across our lives, as our experiences change, as our walk with Jesus change. We are ever invited into new and deeper ways of reflecting on the reality of Christ, on the meaning and significance of Christ's work, of the presence of Christ in our lives. It is a deeply personal question, one which we are invited to journey into. And yet, beware, for as Peter soon learns, there are ways of entering it that are slightly hazardous. Peter confesses, Jesus, you are the Messiah, and Jesus says, yes, you are correct. And so then Jesus begins to speak about what it means for him to be the Messiah, that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering, be rejected, be killed, and 3 days rise again. And Peter cannot hear this. For who he believes Jesus to be cannot be synthesized with this reality that Jesus would suffer. Who he believes the Messiah to be cannot be synthesized or made to fit with this idea that he's going to be rejected and killed. What kind of Messiah is that? And for his objection to Jesus' teaching, Peter is, called Satan. He goes from the guy who gets it right, the first to name Jesus the Messiah, to 3 verses later, get behind me, Satan. It's a sharp fall from grace. So how do we avoid such a thing? Is a good question. While this question, who do we say Jesus Christ is this deeply personal one when we wrestle with an answer, one that reflects the culture and the time that we are in. We must always remain open to Christ and the Spirit breaking apart our experience, breaking apart the inherited categories of our time and place, breaking apart the questions and expectations of our community. We must forever be opened up to allow how we would categorize redemption and rescue and deliverance, how we would categorize societal power and privilege and dynamics, or all those categories that orientate and shape how we reflect on how we live together and Christ's place within that. If they are not constantly open to interruption from Christ himself, then they will begin to fossilize and freeze the image of Christ into something that suits and supports our own project and our own preferences. And the horizon of Christ's interruption and unsettling will just be pushed away without a second thought. And so we remain open to interruption. We remain open to surprise. When we think about who do I say that I am? Who is Jesus Christ? There is this sense that I only provisionally answer that. I only answer that for now, but I am ready and open to be interrupted and reshaped and reformed and unsettled and disturbed by Christ, who comes and comes and comes again to disturb and disrupt and to reshape not only who I am, not only who I think Christ is, but the way I conceive of this whole world. The way I conceive of categories of race and sexuality and money and power and privilege and good and who deserves and who doesn't, and who has earned and who hasn't, and who should be first and who should be last. All this is consistently and forever disrupted and reoriented and flipped and turned topsy-turvy by the Christ who meets us again and again in Scripture, at the table of grace, in the community of believers, and in the least of these who are rejected and ignored. So we are asked, who is Jesus Christ? Who do you say that I am? We are asked to answer that from where we are, with honest reflection on our life with Christ, on the Scriptures, honest reflection within prayer and discernment with others, but always provisionally and always with an openness for surprise, reorientation, and change. Amen.